our discussions and our actions should be guided by a larger principle. By a larger principle that guides what we say and what we do, because in our micro actions and our micro thinking, there's a macro world, there's a macro thinking, there's what some call natural laws and some of the man-made laws that come into play. And if you discuss or act without the guidance of all of these, you don't get what you're looking for.
Buea District Hospital that has been set ablaze 31st March 2019. You see for yourself. Look at the building. It has been set ablaze. People of Southern Cameroon. District Hospital, Buea, 31st March. You see for yourself. The whole hospital has been set ablaze by the terrorists, La République du Cameroon military.
We as a people need to believe in a few things. We need to believe in experts, meaning that if you think about something, don't assume that you know everything about that thing. Don't assume that you can do that thing. Believe in experts. When you think about something or you have a goal to accomplish, some of it, I think your job is to think about it. But to accomplish that thing, sometimes, and I would even dare to say most of the time, you need the help of experts. It's like you have a case. You need the help of a lawyer who understands the law, understands how to navigate the legal system in order to get you the results that you want. Okay? If we should believe in engineers, we should believe in military experts. Let's not just believe that when you pick up a gun, then you've become a wonderful fighter. Let's believe in doctors. Let's believe in experts. I cannot name all the expertise that's out there that we need to depend on to accomplish whatever goal we want in life. But just know that we need experts. And once you assume that you don't know everything, that's the beginning of actually accomplishing what you're trying to accomplish. Because then you would now be able to go and look for these experts to come and help you accomplish. So let's believe in experts. Another thing we really need to believe in is our rights. That we are not just sitting there for anybody to come and dump on us. We have rights. We have rights that are given by God. The American Constitution calls those inalienable rights. Those are rights given by God, not by any man, not by any organized institution or organized group. Those are rights given by God. The American Constitution puts it that we have inalienable rights. The right to life, the right to liberty, and the right to pursue happiness. The right to life means that our life was given to us by God and nobody has the right to come and take it away from us. Like it's happening in our territory right now by the French, with their collaborators or their agents in La République du Cameroon. They've come into our land, they've killed women, they've killed children, they've killed... in fact, all the people they're killing in our land are not soldiers. These were citizens that took on peace leaves and went on the streets demanding to speak to what they consider their government, and because the government know that they are illegitimate, they refuse to discuss with those people. They don't only know that they are illegitimate, they look at the people of Ambazonia as less than human, or less than human, really. And so they thought, we are going to treat them like dogs, because the only people, or the only creatures, the only creatures that you make them do what you want them to do are animals. You train a dog. Actually, I should even say that, because the way experts train dogs is by giving them incentives to do what they want the dog to do. Okay? Even horses. Yeah, you whip you cane the horse and it runs, but most caning of horses is more an instruction to move forward. It's not like you're trying to hurt them, because if you really try to hurt a horse, it will kick you. It will kick you so hard you'll die. Okay? So we have a right to life. Now, the right to liberty is the right to fly like the eagle. Go as high as you can, and when you start running off oxygen, you come down. That's how nature guides liberty. And so the role of government is not to come and take away those rights. Okay? They already tried that and it failed. And what modern life prescribes is that, or democracy, because none of the people who have dominated our lives since the beginning of foreign intervention in our land, none of those have come as communist or any other. They come as democracies. But what they've done to us is make us slaves in our own land. We have a right to liberty. And that brings me to the next right that we have. We have a right to resist. The American Constitution also says that if a government tries to take away these rights from you, you have a right to resist, to overthrow that government. So those are a few rights that, as we pursue our struggle, we should not forget. Because, you know, as we think through our struggle and we act through our struggle, we need to allow a more macro vision or a more macro reality guide our thoughts and our actions. Otherwise, we'll be bungling around and accomplishing nothing. And when you're not guided by these bigger truths, bigger realities, then you're more vulnerable to allowing yourself being lied to and being given false solutions, and you accept them, thinking that you're helping yourself, but really you are putting yourself in more jeopardy. Okay, so those are some of the things that I want to establish first, that we should know that we have the right to life, we have the right to liberty, and we have a right to resist any forces that are trying to take away these rights from us. Now, when you start resisting, you are going to get a reaction. Okay? So if somebody comes and colonizes you and you want to fight back, obviously they want to colonize you. Now, when you fight back, you have two responses that are expected. One would be a fight back, like La Republic and a lot of colonialists have done. Or they can say, you know what, yeah, you have a right to you can say, yeah, or they can say, yeah, you have a right to your freedom, so have your freedom. But that really happens. So what mostly happens is that when you fight back and the enemy tries to say, why you dare fight me, and they bring more force, those who have remained slaves are those who have capitulated. But those who have fought back, the fighting back, have always succeeded. A negative and a negative makes a plus. Okay? A negative and a plus. So if they fight you back and you comply, yeah, then you remain in your same situation where your rights, your liberties, and your right to resist has been taken away. So no, we have a right to resist. And that's what we have been doing with La République du Cameroun. That's what the black people in South Africa did. They resisted apartheid. They resisted it from 1912 until 1994. Sometimes it takes the enemy a long time before they recognize the new reality and then back off. But they always will back off. Because when they come into a situation, they're coming to win. They're not coming to remain fighting, because when you remain fighting, they're not getting what they're looking for. So that's what La République du Cameroun did to us, and we are resisting. So just look at our history, and I made some notes here. If you look at our history from 1961 to 2016, when we were complying with the enemy, we were not fighting them. They came and said, no, let's start with the British. The British said, we are not going to give you what you deserve, what the trusteeship, what the UN trusteeship agreements state that you should have as a trust territory, meaning we are not going to give you your independence or self-government. We are going to either give you to Nigeria or to La République du Cameroun. Our leaders at the time did not resist it. They did not. They said, we have no choice. We're going to take whichever. And they took them and gave them the worst, because really the British wanted Southern Cameroon at the time to be part of Nigeria. If you look at the map, the only reason they actually carved that part from the German colony was because they wanted to straighten the map of Nigeria. They wanted to give better borders to Nigeria. A straight line. It's just for aesthetics, nothing else. And when the League of Nations said, no, you cannot keep these German territories, they have to be international territories, they have to be mandated territories, then they had to cough them back up. And that is when we started having an international personality guided by international law. So when the trusteeship agreements came in, they now spell the goal. What is going to happen to these trust territories? These trust territories are not going to be part of a British colony or part of a French colony. The word Ambazonia is going to be either independent or self-governing. Today we are none. We are neither independent nor self-governing. So we're violated there. And because that violation was never resisted, the French took away our right to, I want to say, of all they took away a lot of rights. I wanted to start with the right of life, but they took away our right to life because they came in and killed us at will. You see, the killing of Ambazonians is not just starting now. It's been killing that has been going on for a very, very long time. But we were, and our way of not being killed is to comply because of fear. And so they, because of that, because of their ability to take away life, they now came in, took away our right to liberty. And they took away our right to liberty by limiting our choices in life. They closed down our deep sea port in Victoria. They closed down our ports in Tico. They closed down our ports at with the boundary of Nigeria, with our trade with Nigeria. They shut all of those down. In fact, Foncha states that when they cut away our source of revenue, then they stop buying our products, because our bananas and all our produce were being purchased through agreements with the Commonwealth. And since we're cut off, it went to the French now. And the French, in order to make us comply, they stopped buying our bananas. Foncha would tell you that bananas were getting rotten all over the place because the French companies would not buy them. It was by policy. He had to go and beg for some to be bought. Now, when they bankrupt us and we're dependent on them for money to even pay the civil service, then they control how the civil service is paid. Those who were federal get paid more, those who were just state get paid less, so that everybody want to be federal in order so they can take over the place. I mean, the manipulation was inhumane. It was inhumane. So after they've cut us off and we're now financially dependent on them, then they started destroying our economy. They shut down PowerCam. They shut down our umbrella production in Moliwe. They shut down Santa Coffee. They shut down WADA. They closed Cameroon Bank, bankrupt Nanga Company, one of the best building companies in the whole of Central Africa. I don't include West Africa because I don't know. The only company in West Africa that was in Central Africa that was competing with international companies in building construction was killed because it came from Ambazonia. I even heard that if you wanted to invest in Ambazonia with your own money, they will not give you a permit, but they're very ready to finance you to establish in La République du Cameroon, in Douala or Yaoundé. Yeah, you want to build a clinic here? You know what? If you build that clinic in Douala, we will give you money to build that clinic.
We had our own source of electricity, our own electrical corporation PowerCam, our own production plant at UK. All that was demolished in order to reduce us to total dependence on power supplied from far away area. The result of this is that few places in southern Cameroon, whether north or southwest provinces, are electrified today. Without adding anything, they have destroyed what we had. They contrived to squeeze out Anglophone business and to maintain an excessive grasp and control over finance and business. They fix the terms and conditions of credit and control access to finance institutions, both public and private. As a result, familiar Anglophone businesses staff of credit, such as Fomenki's Direct Supply, Liba Automobile, Nanga Company, Kilo Brothers, Chair Company, and so on, are no more. Without adding anything, they have destroyed what we had. They closed down our agro-industrial establishments such as the Santa Coffee Estate and later the Womb Area Development Authority and the Obang Farm Settlement. They have taken away from us the responsibility to plan our towns and to maintain in them the high standard of sanitation that used to prevail. They have destroyed the system of local government and of community development which we had instituted in southern Cameroon. Worse than that, they have destroyed what we had. Without adding anything, they have destroyed what we had. Under the pretext of resurfacing our roads, which were tarred prior to unification, they dug up the existing tar, destroyed the roads, and in that state abandoned them, as in the case of Kumba Mbonge and the Kumba Tombel roads. In 32 years of independence and unification, the government has not added a single kilometer of road to the network that existed in southern Cameroon prior to unification. Now, neither in terms of employment, nor in terms of commercial activity, nor in any other terms, has Federal brought anything to Victoria. The employees from top management to labourer are from Francophone Cameroon. Without adding anything, they have destroyed what we had.
You have farmers who have been toiling all their lives to grow cocoa, to grow coffee, and these are products and economic crops that the government has monopoly over their sales because they are export crops. The government takes these crops from the farmers, exports the crops, collects the money, and doesn't pay to the farmers. And so you can have farmers for 3 years running, going without money, even though they have delivered produce which has already been paid for, but the government has not passed the money on to the onto the farmers concerned. And when the farmers rise up, they want their money, they want their right to sell their coffee themselves, sell their cocoa themselves. The government's answer is violence, use of troops, and so on.
That's how come they contain our liberties and obviously abolish our local controls. Everything was now central control. The elections that we used to elect our representatives, they shut that off and started appointing colonial administrators talking to us in an inferior French language, making us learn another language. Even though the people who are promoting this language would rather their children learn English, but because they don't own themselves, the French want them to speak French. So they'll come and enforce French on us, meanwhile flooding our secondary schools with their children because they want their children to learn a superior language and a superior system. Okay, so our rights to liberty totally curtailed, and with that goes our right to pursue happiness. And that is where our people in 2016 started saying enough is enough. And they did it in the most peaceful and most civilized way. They went on the street with peace leaves in support of the lawyers and the teachers, the most educated amongst us, doing it the most civilized way, but what they met was force. And the only thing, the only creature that bows down to force and bows down to force forever are animals, not human beings. So our compliance from 1961 until 2016 was never rewarded with anything. We just saw more and more takeaway of what is ours by God's will, not by man's will, by God's will. Even by man's will, that too was taken away. You know. So I just have a little list here. You know, I was watching a piece where when Nazi Germany took over Poland, they took away everything. The only thing they left in Poland was what provided subsistence living for the Polish. Everything else was destroyed or taken away. And so when La République, when the French took over the southern Cameroons and Bazonia today, they bankrupted the economy. Our ports were closed. Victoria, Tico was closed. Our infrastructure was allowed to deteriorate. They stole equipment. All the earth-moving equipment was stolen. Taken to Bafoussam, taken to Douala. All our PWDs and the earth-moving equipment that maintain our roads for all seasons was taken away to their country. Ombe had a lot of heavy equipment provided by the Americans. The equipment was looted, taken to La République, and Ombe downgraded. So anything beyond bare existence was either taken away or destroyed. Businesses and organizations were closed and its resources stolen. Northwest Cooperative was shut down. PMO, Produce Marketing Board, was closed. Dr. Monzo says when PMO was closed, $160 million was stolen. And they built a building in Douala. Obviously not in Victoria or in Kumba or in Bamenda. It was stolen and taken to their land. That's what colonialists do. All the roads, in the days, I remember only 2 roads were maintained. The roads between Bamenda and Bafoussam, which today it looks like a pit, and the Tico Douala road. Roads that do not connect us, but those that connect us to La République du Cameroun. That's what they did. Nanga Company was destroyed. Nanga Company was the only company that could build to match international standards in the whole of Central Africa. So we are right now in the process of resistance. And you can see that from 2016 to today, with our resistance, but before I talk about this resistance from 2016, let's go back to 1990, when the SDF mounted a resistance. When the SDF mounted a resistance, they started giving back. They came back with multi parties, and then you can go and read about what SDF resistance produced in the whole of Cameroon. I think it's Patrice Ngana or somebody like that who has actually mentioned about how much the so-called Anglophones have contributed in the change in La République du Cameroon. But if you start from SDF, yeah, I understand that in the past, before you leave the place, you have to get an exit visa. It is the SDF that made it so that people don't need exit visas to leave that whole large prison called La République du Cameroon. Then they introduced multipartism and the other ones you can find out. But I want to say that because of our resistance since 2016, certain things are going on. Certain things are going on. And I just want to mention one. I'm not the one that seems to be really stepping back and giving in. That's this whole special status thing.
Now, somebody talked of House of Chiefs. They have brought back House of Chiefs. My brother, did you spend your life in Kenya or some other country that is not this one? House of Chiefs in the days of Southern Cameroon was a senate. It was a senate. So you want to bring back a senate as a council chamber? What are you talking about?
Whoever believe that a colonizer would say, you know what, well, we're going to allow you to govern yourself somehow. It comes from resistance. So our special status, this is what I wrote about the special status. Our special status as human beings was given by God. Let's not allow subjects of a fascist French state to pretend that they have special status to give us. They don't. They don't. Our rights that were enshrined in the first constitution, the first federal constitution, even though we did not sign it, but they knew that what they're doing is absolutely wrong. So they put this whole thing, and yes, they did put it on paper.
J'ai ici avec moi la constitution du 1er février 1961. Cette constitution qui a instauré l'État fédéral au Cameroun. Cette constitution dit à l'article 1er, et c'est très bref, la République fédérale du Cameroun est formée à compter du 1er octobre 1961 du territoire de la République du Cameroun, désormais appelé Cameroun oriental, et du territoire du Cameroun oriental, anciennement sous tutelle britannique, désormais appelé Cameroun occidental. Le 1er septembre 1961. Les deux Camerouns ont réalisé leur unité. On a eu un Cameroun oriental et un Cameroun occidental qui ont fédéré pour donner la République fédérale du Cameroun. Les deux Cameroun étaient unis. Et l'article 47 de cette constitution va sceller cette union en disant ceci, article 47, toute proposition de révision de la présente constitution portant atteinte à l'unité et à l'intégrité de la fédération est irrecevable. L'article 47. Donc ça veut dire que la forme fédérale de l'État du Cameroun ne devait jamais, je dis jamais, être remise en cause. En d'autres termes, le référendum du 20 mai 1972 était un référendum illégal, anticonstitutionnel. Ce référendum a violé la Constitution. Et je suis étonné qu'on choisisse le 20 mai comme un jour de fête de l'unité du Cameroun. L'unité du Cameroun s'est réalisée le 1er septembre 1961. 1972 doit plutôt nous rappeler la date où les francophones ont avalé les anglophones. La date où on a décidé d'accélérer la brimade des anglophones Parce que jusque-là, le Cameroun anglophone avait un premier ministre qui était d'abord John Good Foncha, et quand Paul Biya a vu qu'il ne pouvait, quand Amadou Ahidjo a vu qu'il ne pouvait pas manipuler John Good Foncha, il a fait remplacer par Tandem Mouna. Parce que John Good Foncha était à l'époque vice-président de la République du Cameroun. Ahidjo a prétendu que les deux postes sont incompatibles. Il ne peut pas être vice-président de la République et premier ministre du Cameroun occidental. Il a fait remplacer par Tandem Mouna. Et en 1972, Tandem Mouna, on le met président de l'Assemblée nationale, qui passe de premier ministre du Cameroun occidental. Il aurait pu devenir vice-président du Cameroun. On le balance à un vulgaire poste de président de l'Assemblée nationale. Et à partir de là, les anglophones ont perdu toute autonomie. Toutes les institutions du pays anglophone ont été dissoutes. Et on en trouve, on voit les conséquences aujourd'hui.
They violated that. Okay? But that violation was made because even that paper itself was troubling. So they had to violate that. And the violation of that federal status came from Paris, not from Yaoundé. So this special status is not coming from Yaoundé, it's coming from Paris. Our special status as human beings was given by God. Let's not allow subjects of a fascist France to pretend that they have special status to give us. They don't. Our rights to be taken away were ordered from Paris, not Yaoundé. So what we need to do is stay focused. We need to stay focused to resist until we establish our rights as human beings, our rights to liberty, and our rights to pursue our own happiness the way we know how. Every enemy will bring, not every enemy, this enemy is going to bring blacklegs, sellouts, Judas Iscariots, prisoners of war, opportunists, the feeble-minded, haters, to tempt us or delay our freedom. We should never be distracted by any of it. They will tell lies, half-truths, recruit friends and enemies to try to dissuade us from our God-given rights, but we must ignore and stay focused. They may even use size of our country, the size of our economy, but we must stay focused because these rights that I just talked about, the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, really is an individual right. It's an individual right. So the size of your country or the size of your economy it can enhance that right, but that right should not be dependent on these. And so it's like the British came and said, "Oh, you know, we're not going to give you independence, and then you expect us to give you the key of the Bank of England." That was a false argument. It was a false argument because at the time they knew that the southern Cameroons, and they wrote it, was beneficial to the crown. It was profitable to the crown. It can be profitable to the crown, but it should not be profitable to the citizens on that place or of that territory. I mean, you know, we've been talking about white supremacists recently. So the people of the southern Cameroons have lived for thousands of years without the British or foreigners into their land. But right now, foreigners will come and say, "You know what? Your country is not big enough, and it's too poor, so you cannot have your independence because you will depend on us." It's amazing, isn't it? It's an amazing argument, isn't it? And do you believe that our leaders at the time complied to that? So, I've been reading a lot about the fund on SAW. And the fund on SAW has been commented on social media. I've read all of that. I've listened to his interview. And here's what I want to say about not only the fund on SAW, but all the funds. When colonialists come into a territory that they want to colonize, they first of all look for the controlling force in that territory. In our case, it's the funds. The Germans did it, the British did it, and now the French want to do it. I think they look at it now and think, oh, maybe we made a mistake in abolishing their local government because we could have done a better job controlling them through that. No. When the British controlled our funds, it was indirect rule. So it was really a more equitable agreement with the British. Okay, the French come with a fascist and with a, I'm trying to qualify white supremacist interjection in a population, but I cannot say I cannot really say the British came with less of an imposition than the French, because impositions are impositions, and they still disrupt the flow of life in that territory. But let me make the statement, and to be honest with you, that's a different conversation. Let me put it aside. But let me say that what is happening with the fund on SAW is what is happening to every fund. Okay, where the fund on and so we really can't blame the fund on SAW, because the only way not to be targeted by the colonizer is to not be the fund or run into the bushes. The earlier chiefs and funds who resisted the colonialists did not end up well, because really you're fighting a superior force, a superior military force. A superior military force. So, Bob Marley has a song where it says, live to fight another day. So, Chief Kuva Lekeni of Bakweri fought the Germans and died in the Hills fighting. The fund of Bafut fought the Germans, resisted them for 7 years, until the Germans started emptying the village, and then the fund of Bafut decided that, I'm the fund of my people, I represent the interests of my people, I would rather give up myself than give up my people to be scattered among collaborative tribes. And so he gave up. So these people target these funds and they give them a choice, which is an impossible choice. And so the question now is, how do we treat our funds who have been taken over by the colonialists and made them an auxiliary part of their colonial control? Do we abandon them? In fact, are the funds really institutions that we should continue to promote? Those are questions that we need to deal with, but is this the time to deal with them? Maybe not. So the fund on SAW has no choice but to be controlled. If you look at that little press conference that was going on, you can look at the fund on SAW surrounded by foreigners in foreign uniforms, speaking foreign languages. Okay? They speak French. The fund on SAW was not speaking in French. The people asking him questions were not speaking in French. And so you realize that the vestiges of the injustice to the people of Ambazonia is obvious. Somebody was telling me that what La Republique is trying to do these days is try to convince the international community to start treating Ambazonian freedom fighters as terrorists. Like I just said, Ambazonians have tried the international system. They've obeyed all the laws. They obeyed the Germans. They obeyed the League of Nations. They obeyed the British, they obeyed the UN, they obeyed La République du Cameroon and the French, and they end up today being shot, their children murdered in their sleep, murdered in their classrooms, all their villages are burned, their grandparents are burnt in houses. They've tried to even starve us by slaughtering our livestock, burn our plant seed, our crop seed, our food. They've done everything to make us succumb. And one of the things that is making them, you see them start backpedaling now and looking for other ways, is our resistance. And that is why I say we cannot take focus of that resistance, because they've tried everything. They've brought in the blacklegs, they've brought in the thieves, they've co-opted the international community, and our resistance, they don't know what to do right now, because our resistance is the resistance given to us by God. Because when God made us humans, it was not by error. And anybody who wants to turn us into animals so that we're obeying a gun or a whip or some colonial officer standing there in military uniform, all of them surrounded with guns, it's not going to succeed, because our resistance is a human resistance given to us by God. The apartheid system in South Africa thought they can outlive the humanity of the people of South Africa, and they did not. So the French will not outlive our humanity. We have experienced the Nigerians. It didn't work very well for us over there. We've experienced La République du Cameroon. It did not work for us over there. The fun of Bafut in Mamfe, when in 1960, 1961, when the British were imposing the two alternatives to us, our people argued that we need our independence. The Fon Chirimbi of Bafut at the time said, Nigeria is an ocean and La République is a fire. We don't want any of that. We want our independence. And they rejected it. And they think they can impose something else on us. We have tried to make that imposition work. The failure of us living with La République du Cameroon is not our fault. We are not responsible for that failure. It is the people who want to turn us into animals who have failed, because they are trying to change what God has made, and that is not going to work. So right now, we want our independence. The funds are now under control, and they are carrying them with guns in military helicopters all around the place. Where I find fault with the fun on Saw is when he tries to tell a false story about our history.
Thank you so much for talking to the media. The regional election, how important is it in restoring peace to the troubled Northwest region, especially in Buea division that has been very volatile?
It's something so marvelous. I don't know what to say than to say this is the challenge for the three of us to see what we can do here. And I'm sure that when we shall be talking to the government, through the governor, we understand us fast. We only want, what we want is peace. That peace, that the regional election will bring it to us, our people.
You are appeal to those who still think otherwise. What message do you have to them?
Well, I would like again to tell them that they have been struggling a lot, but it cannot be possible to tamper with your government, or you are not fit to win your government. In in 1968, the Nigerian Biafra war started in Nigeria. Fought, and they could not succeed. I don't see that we will succeed here.
He cannot be comparing us with Biafra. He cannot. It is true that all the tribes, all the villages in Africa were sovereign. But when the colonialists came, they grouped us into what they call countries. And that is the new man-made law. How that should continue to last is a different story. I have a video by a brother who is saying that for Africa to continue to maintain these tiny micro-states that can never scale anything is wrong. But that's a different argument. For right now, anybody who tries to compare Ambazonia trying to assert its international legal rights, assert its right under the Constitution of La République du Cameroon, written by La République du Cameroon and violated by La République du Cameroon, is false. So the fund on such shouldn't be trying to compare us with Biafra, because Biafra tried to secede from Nigeria, a country they had independence together. We were not supposed to be part of La République du Cameroon the way we are. Not even by La République's own constitution that they wrote and we never signed. They said there were 8 items that the United Nations put in front of us to vote on. We did vote for that. That's not what we have today. Our lawyers have stated that case many, many times. Gochidinka is an incredible expert who has explained that until he turned blue. So, fun, I understand your predicament, but don't tell lies. Don't tell lies, because when you cross that line, you're part of the enemy.